Welcome to Newbeing Queen Talk Show. I'm so excited to introduce a wonderful guest on tonight. I'm so excited about it, and y'all are gonna actually love her. She has some great information that she would like to share with us on tonight. I'm talking about a teacher, someone who has her PhD, someone who's ready to get out there and get themselves seen, get themselves heard, and they love doing research, love teaching. I'm talking about just a beautiful soul on tonight, y'all. She looks young, she's beautiful, very educated, very talented, very smart. Listen, I've enjoyed our conversation on tonight. So we're gonna go ahead and share this live on tonight. We're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Hello, family, kings and queens. How are you all doing on tonight? So I am so excited to introduce this beautiful woman of God on tonight, y'all. I'm just so elated to be able to introduce the woman of God, Dr. Amara. She's an expert in racial and cultural influences on personal identities and brands. She's a public speaker, lecturer, and branding and professional with a background in communications. Y'all listen, this woman can talk, okay? She can communicate very well, have great interpersonal skills. So I need y'all to share this live on tonight. Guess what? Y'all know when y'all share this live, y'all know I love when y'all come in and comment. I love for you all to share your comment. I love for you to talk back to us, share some things, share some information. If there's something that she say, clap back, talk back to us, okay? Y'all know how we did on Newbeing Queen Talk Show. But before we get ready to bring the beautiful woman of God up to talk about what she's doing, I'm going to go ahead and do a commercial. We have this beautiful woman of God who's getting ready to come up, and she's going to talk to us about different things that she's doing. Y'all, she's been on a talk show like TEDx talk show. She's been on, she's a lecturer. She has a PhD. She's done some wonderful things with herself. Y'all, we got to get her out there. She's done some wonderful research on different celebrities. So this woman right here really knows her stuff, okay? So without further ado, we're going to bring the woman of God up from Canada. So we're going to bring this beautiful soul of Dr. Amara. How are you, beautiful?
Well, how are you doing?
I am fine. I am so excited to have you with me on tonight. And I know that we've already had our conversation back there in the back, but let the people that's listening right now know more about you and what you are doing.
Sure. Well, I have been in academia for a very long time. I completed my bachelor's degree. It was a joint honors degree in English rhetoric and fine arts with a digital media specialization. Then that led me to do a master's in communication studies and a PhD in media studies. So I've graduated last year, completed my studies. I'm very excited to be done. And simultaneously, while I was in academia, I was in work full time. So working full time, I climbed the ranks in marketing and communications, and I'm currently the marketing manager of North America for a global telematics company in construction. That just means I'm in marketing at the intersection of tech and construction. And while I was going up in academia as well as industry, I was a visible minority and a woman. So I found myself in a lot of rooms in industry and academia where I was the only female or I was the only quote unquote non-white person. So I've become a huge advocate for diversity.
Wow. So we know that you did a whole lot of research and the different people that you researched. Can you tell us some of the people that you researched?
For my PhD, well, actually, beginning in my master's, I started studying Drake. And then in my PhD, I extended that research. And I looked at Drake, Justin Bieber, and Jessie Reyes. They're 3 Canadian artists participating in R&B music, but they're all of different racial identities. So what I was looking at was racially diverse Canadians participating in R&B, which is traditionally associated with Black America. So I wanted to look at how these different racial identities and Canadian identities was trying to participate in the space and brand and market themselves.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So we know that, okay, you have this interest. What made you want to take on this field that you're doing right now? What made you want to do this?
Yeah, well, I've always been interested in music, but I'm no musician. I can't sing.
Right,
I can't dance. I like to listen to music as a fan. I love Shakespeare. Yeah, and my parents, they're from the Caribbean. They're from Trinidad. So having first generation Canadian immigrant parents living in Canada, we listen to soca, reggae, calypso music I never heard on the radio. And in Canada, we didn't hear that kind of sounds. We also didn't see people who looked like us in mainstream media. It was predominantly white. So what I didn't realize as a kid, those experiences would come to fruition in my research, because I wanted to look at why that music that I love so much, that R&B, those soca beats, and why people who looked like me were not represented when it was such a huge population in Canada, and these people were into the culture, but they didn't get the recognition that they deserved. So when I looked at kind of the popular artists in R&B, I also had to look at that history and understand why R&B was for so long not celebrated in Canada, and then look at how Canadian artists of different identities participate in the space now.
Wow. Awesome. So as a little girl, let's go back to that. As a little girl, you went to school and things like that, and you said, hey, there's not many people that look like me. Can you give us a little story about what you experienced as a little girl growing up?
Yeah, so I lived in Scarborough. I was born in Scarborough. So that is where I experienced a lot of different racial identities, a lot of different Canadian immigrants. It was a great experience because there was people who also looked and sounded like my parents from Trinidad. But when I was in about grade 2, I was a little girl, moved to a very small town in Ontario. And in Ontario, in that small town, we were the only brown family in a corner house. We were the only brown family in the entire town. And I was the only brown girl in school. So back then, we didn't have TikTok, we didn't have Instagram where people could scroll and see other people who looked like people outside of their surroundings. But we relied on mainstream media. And again, mainstream media showed predominantly white people. So my classmates weren't really aware or exposed to people who looked like me unless they went outside of the town that we lived in. And I had students and classmates ask me, were you born like that? Did you tan a lot? They didn't understand what brown skin was. And it sounds crazy, but it was a very common experience that a lot of people I've spoken to in Canada have as a quote unquote non-white person when they go to these small towns in Ontario growing up back, generations ago. So I think that really instilled my understanding of differences and racial differences. And I think that's why I ended up becoming so passionate about it, because back then I didn't really take offense to it either. I just thought that was ignorance. They just didn't know. They weren't educated. So I think education is a really important way to create a better understanding about differences and racial differences without immediately thinking it's like a threatening racist comment, understanding that there's a gap and a room for a way that we can connect with one another through that education process.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot. How did you handle that? Like when they were like, do you tan? Like what was your response to that when they asked? Because but I'm glad that they asked the question instead of just looking at you weird. At least they were bold enough to come to you and say, do you tan? Because you have beautiful skin. Your complexion is beautiful. So I can understand why they were saying, well, do you tan? Because they probably want to know, how can I get your complexion? Because it's so perfect. So what was your response?
Let me preface this by saying they weren't all nice comments. Some people did ask me nicely, did you tan a lot? Were you born like that? But other people might say, I want to get tanned, but not your color tan. I don't want to get that dark. So there were racist comments said to me based on my skin tone. Yes. So I won't say it wasn't all daisies and rainbows, but when those comments happened to me when I was really young, I realized and understood that it was just a lack of understanding, because they would also question the food that I ate or the way I would say things. And it could become slang of my Trinidadian parents. I just would say words that they weren't familiar with or refer to things in ways that they'd never heard of before. And coming to school, my mom would pack me roti and doubles and food that they didn't understand what it was or how I ate it. It was also eating oranges a different way from the way they eat oranges. It was really, really odd things like that. So I immediately knew just a lack of understanding.
Isn't it amazing how the things that we go through as a child, and we began to be research and help people when we grow up and become older. Like when I was growing up, it was like I wanted to have a voice, and I didn't have a voice, I felt like. And so now I want to give people a voice. And so that's what I do. So it's like that what you went through, you said this is a lack of education. I want people to be more aware and bring and shed light on some of the things that they may not be aware of other people, other cultures, or how they do things. And, and why don't they know more about the music that they listen to and things like that. So that is just awesome. Hey, I'm awesome. So I'm excited about it. So when you talk about the marketing piece and the branding and things like that, where did you get that interest from? Like, I know you did your study on Justin Bieber and Jesse Reyes and Drake. So when you did your research on the brand and marketing, what did you find out?
Well, to start, I selected these artists not just because I thought they were good case studies for my research, but I genuinely am a big fan of all three of them. I grew up listening to Drake. I grew up listening to Justin Bieber. I love Jessie Reyes when she hit the scene. So to me, this project wasn't just about the academic research. It was just a pure passion project of mine, just understanding the branding and marketing strategies and just getting to listen to their music while I'm doing my PhD. I got to just sit there and engross myself in their albums and the lyrics and the stories that they told in the music videos. I was so passionate about that. But I think growing up, I found that music was a great escape for me. I found feeling that idea of differences. I think that I used music to feel a sense of belonging in places and times that I didn't feel like I was welcome or I was a part of it. So I loved music because it gave me that feeling. And I didn't think that it would then come into fruition in my PhD, but I've always had this inclination to want to listen to music and understand it more as a fan again, not as somebody that I could sing. I wish I could sing, but I'm tone deaf. So that's not a career path I'm going to put down. So I'll research it.
So don't try it. So I won't actually sing then.
No, please don't. No. I can't hit a tune, but I can appreciate what
Right. So, listen, because I will put people on the spot. I'm telling you now. If you would have told me that you could sing, I'd be like, you know what, y'all want to hear her sing? So I'm not going to put you on the spot since you don't want to sing. But that's okay. So we do know that you have been on TEDx. How do you get on TEDx? Like, how did that happen?
It was a crazy moment. So I was completing my master's degree. I was 23 years old. I wrote a paper on Drake, and the paper was just for a project for a course. It was just an elective I was doing, and I wanted to write about how he represented kind of a hybrid identity. So I was looking at how in one music video he represents his American roots, United States of America roots, and another one representing his Canadian roots. One, he's a high class rapper. Another one, he's a low class member of society, a working class member of society. He represents his Jewish roots, and another, his Catholic roots. So it was just, I found that the music videos, when I put them all together, represented this hybridity. And he showed that all of these different cultural influences shaped his branding and marketing. And so I wanted to explore that. So I did that in just a paper, and I was able to present that paper at conferences across Canada. And luckily, at one of the conferences, an audience member wanted to publish it for Simon Fraser University. So I got that published, and then it snowballed where the press got a hold of it, and I got to interview with CBC and Toronto Star and Vice Media, Daily Hive. It just picked up from there. And I'm 23. I have no experience with media. I've done no press. I've not been in the entertainment industry at all. I'm just a nerdy little student just working on my master's. So that was really interesting for me to do interviews. And the interviews ranged from questions about my academic research to what's your favorite Drake song? It got to be a really cool mesh of popular culture and academia, because I find that the two don't tend to go together very often. And so when that all happened, I was actually 22 at the time. And when all that happened about a year later, I was 23, had no idea, but this was all died down, no press, no nothing. And I got an email from a TEDx organizer asking me to do this because he saw one of the articles that wrote about my paper and was interviewing me. So what I'm saying is this was an assignment for a random class that snowballed into all of this to allow me to do a TEDx. So I never take any opportunity for granted, because you never know what they turn into. It was crazy. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It was an interesting experience, to say
Oh
the
my
least.
goodness. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, were there ever any moments that you were just like afraid and was like, oh my goodness, you know, and did not, you know, you had to turn some things down because you were afraid, or you just say, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to do it. You know, just been excited.
I have, I would say I have the attitude of just jumping in and then kind of figuring it out, which can get me into trouble sometimes, but I think that's the best way to live life. I think having that analysis, scare of just not being able to make a decision because there's too many decisions to make can be more of an inhibitor than a strategic move. I think sometimes when you just jump in and try to figure things out, it pushes you into new experiences and new opportunities. So I tend to lean more towards the just jumping in side of things.
Dr. Pope, you were only 23 years old with your doctorate, right?
No, I was 23 when I was doing the TEDx talk. I'm now turning 30 this year. But
okay, got you. Okay.
Yeah. So I finished the PhD right under 30. So I was really excited about that.
Okay. So since we're talking about that, Dr. Pope, so how has it been since you've gotten your doctorates in teaching and things like that? Has that been like a struggle for you to get into teaching, you know, and things like that? Kind of help us to know more about that. Because we think once you get your doctorates, oh, it's game. Like people are going to be running. They're going to be trying to reach out to you and trying to get you to teach for them. So what has been your experience since you got your doctorates?
I will say it has been more of a struggle. And I think that Canada is a very difficult place to get into academic work, because as a teacher, a lot of profs are holding on to tenure, and a lot of them take so long to get tenure that they have such a high saturation of people wanting to get into higher education to teach. So right now, as somebody with a PhD, I am struggling to break into any kind of part-time teaching experience because there's such a long list of people who, you know, are connected and they're networked and they know each other, and that's how they break in. Whereas because I've kind of had my foot in the door in industry where I've been paying for school, working full time, and also one foot in the door in academia, just getting my PhD done, there was a lack of networking in the academic world where, you know, I was head down getting my work done and then working in the industry side. So I found that having a lack of that network is making it difficult to find my teaching experiences. But I have been lucky enough to do interviews, to find ways to get my voice out there, and secure opportunities for guest lecturing at the moment. So I'm doing a lot of guest lecturing, a lot of public speaking, a lot of discussions about my research in hopes that one day I'll get that teaching job.
Oh, wow. And because you have your doctorates, is that teaching in at a college? Is that teaching like at a regular school? Like, because you have your doctorates, because a lot of doctorates do not just do elementary, high school teaching, they do college teaching. So what is your field?
My goal would be to teach in a university or a college in media, marketing, or communication studies, because right now the intersection of all of my research is looking at digital media, social media, marketing and brand strategies, as well as communication. So I think that what I hope to do is get in one of those fields, but when I teach, draw on popular culture references. So if I get a marketing gig and I get to teach marketing, I'll talk about Drake's marketing strategies, because I feel like when you reference culture, students can resonate with that. They can understand the theory based on practice. So I can talk about theoretical frameworks, but through artists that people like to listen to, or through social media trends that people are following. I think that that's the best way to kind of integrate the two.
Oh, wow. I was just thinking when you said about teaching and things like that, have you thought about, you know, like teaching people on social media, you know, about brand marketing and things like that? Like, have you thought about maybe just like branching out and just saying, you know what, since I'm looking to go to work at a college and things like that, a university. So until then, let me teach people more about marketing that I've done in my research about Drake's and all the rest of them, you know, doing classes like that. Have you thought about going like that way and just, you know, do teaching classes like that?
Yeah. Well, the guest lectures have allowed me to do so. I taught at the University of Southern California a couple of weeks ago, and I got to talk to undergrad and graduate students just about the research and theoretical frameworks. And then they asked me practical things. Some of them were music producers or executives and wanted to ask me, what are some tips and tricks you could tell me about based on your research of discovering artists, building artist brands. So I've been able to do those things, and also in interviews been asked those questions. But I'm still working in marketing right now, and I've found a really great way to apply what I've learned in a practical space. So in the intersection of construction and tech at this company that I'm working at, I work on their digital marketing strategies. And for example, last year I was able to get their LinkedIn audience up to over 10,000 followers based on applying what I've learned. So I've been able to do good with what I'm doing. And I love the work that I'm doing because I've been able to kind of be an advocate for what this company represents. And a lot of it is reducing emissions, helping the environment, as well as creating a very positive outlook on construction and technology. So I am doing what I love, but I would love to teach. I'd love to put it in also a classroom setting.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying. Let's say, for instance, if you being a teacher, and if there was me and a couple other people wanted to get in your class, would you teach us? There'll be like a fee that you will charge, and just start teaching like that. That'll be like a business of yours, that you're gonna, you got to have several streams of income. And so you're doing this on the job where you work at, right? And so if you were to do something like that, having a Zoom class, and then have people to come into your class and talk about branding and strategies and things like that, like a workshop. So I had this one right here she said, Pastor Trinette, she said, that would be great. And she said, that's marvelous. That's what I was saying. And then she said a workshop would be great too. So she's saying this, she's on the same page as I am about you doing things like that. So even on the side of what you're already doing, if you can start your own business doing things like that, doing workshops and things like that, and talking more about branding strategies and things like that. Have you thought about doing something like that?
I thought about consulting for a while, and that might be a great way to showcase this. And like you're saying, do workshops as a consultant and be able to come in and speak with people based on my research, based on my work experience. I have thought about that. And now that my PhD is done, maybe that's something I can jump into later this year.
I'm telling you now, there's something to it, because I was thinking about this. She was up there texting, Pastor Trinette was texting and saying the same thing. So there is something to it. So
I appreciate that.
Look into it. I mean, she's a visionary too, so she probably seen a vision of it. Right when I was getting it, she probably was getting it too. So I'm just saying.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I thank you so much.
Even if it's something you do on the side, because guess what? When you start doing things like that, then you can be creating flyers. Because right now it's almost like you're working for someone else, but you're not getting yourself out there. But once you start doing it yourself, then the flyers will be generated. You got people that will share it on social media. People will see your face and they'll know what you're doing. And it may be just something that you will end up doing, teaching on your own. Maybe, university may come up, but until then, you be getting your face out there, and people say, oh, so you teach classes and, you also work at this company, it's just different things. What I appreciate
that. I'll think about that. I appreciate
it. So we might be onto something here.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Okay. Like I said, I've been thinking of it's been stewing in my mind for a while. So maybe this is the catalyst I need to just pull the trigger and go.
Get out there. Just to get out there, and then once you get out there and people see your face, they, see it on LinkedIn, they see it on Facebook, and then people are asking you questions. You say, well, I never thought of it like that. It could be more stuff that you can research and look into, because we would like to know more about, your research and how they got out there. Because when we see people, celebrities out there, you've done the research on celebrities and that are successful, and you've done the research, you see how they have gotten themselves out there. That could be something that we can use. Those are some of the tools that we can use. And, it may be something you may see in myself, and you may say, you know what, this is what you do. This is how you can get yourself out there, because every individual is different, but we're all coming to a class for branding and marketing, but you can talk to each of us individually to show us, how we can get ourselves out there individually. So I'm just saying.
Good idea.
And she said workshop in the college. She said in workshops in the college too. She said, the workshop. So there may there's something there too. So while you're looking for that, you can just go and say, hey, I'll do workshops and things like that. So I'm excited. I'm excited. This interview has been awesome. Is there anything that you would like to say? Because there are other people that's out there that have their PhD, that may be going through something that you're going through right now. Because when you get your PhD, we're thinking that you can just jump up right then and just start doing things, and you're gonna, right off get hired and things like that. What would be something that you can tell someone that's going to school right now and they're getting their PhD? What would be something that you would say to encourage them while they're going to school and when they get out? Because I know there has to be something, that they may be feeling some kind of way and thinking that as soon as I get out, I'm gonna get me a job. Because there's a lot of people that have PhDs, they have the education, but they're not even working in that field. They're not even doing it. And they went through all the college, got all the information, and they're not even able to use it. And maybe some of them are overqualified, So can you tell us what would be something that you would say to someone like myself that's going through school, going for my doctorates, and I'm just thinking I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna get me a job? What would you say to me?
Well, I would say it's to anybody, whether they're doing their undergraduate degree, they're doing a certification, a master's, a PhD. One thing my mom always told me is that knowledge is never wasted. You don't know where you might use that knowledge, whether it's in a direct position that you're hoping to get a job in that field, or it could be in a completely unrelated field, but you're learning transferable skills. It might be an idea, it might be a type of work ethic that you've learned to develop. And so while doing any degrees, any certifications, I always recommend, if you don't have a part-time job, you volunteer, or you find time to carve out a moment, whether it's an hour or two a day, a week, a month, to just do something completely outside of your field. And you never know what those skills might turn into, or where those interests may develop into a different opportunity for you later on. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So it's not, so the knowledge that you have is not wasted, because you can utilize it somewhere else, even if it's not in the actual field that you went to. That is awesome. See, I'm telling you, listen, that is wisdom speaking. And Mom was very wise to share the information.
She's a very wise one.
and it gives people hope. Like, oh, okay, so it's not lost, so it's not a lost cause, they wasted my time all these years, so that's beautiful. You tell Mom.
That's even going for if you're deciding that a PhD is not for you 3 years down the road, 4 years down the road. You might decide, maybe I need to quit, but it's not a failure. You learn from that experience as well.
Right. Okay, I'm done. I am done. So that is it that we have for now. If you want to say something to the listening audience, say something to encourage the listening audience, and how can we reach you and things of that nature. So encourage them, the listening audience, and then share your taglines with us. Let us know how we can reach you.
Okay. Well, as I just suggested, don't give up. You never know what an opportunity might turn into, or where a new opportunity may rise. So always change your environment, change your experiences, meet new people. You never know where those relationships will go. And in terms of that, if you want to connect with me or reach me and develop a relationship, you can always visit my website at www.dramarapope.com or .ca. And that's www.dramarapope.ca or .com. Yeah.
And you also, are you on YouTube? Aren't you on YouTube as well?
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of them. My handle is the exact same. It's at DRAMARAPOPE. So at Dr. Amara Pope. The website, the handle, all the same.
all the same, y'all. So if y'all looking for someone in this field in marketing and branding, hey, reach out to her. Maybe some information she's willing to provide you all. So all is not lost. Okay. So I'm excited about it. Also, are you willing to travel or move if someone has a job for you outside of Canada? Are you willing to move?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to also in the interim even guest lecture. For the University of Southern California, I actually was able to do that remotely. So that's also an opportunity as well. I taught remotely at Conestoga College before, and I really enjoyed that experience. So if it's really far, I'm still accessible online.
Oh, I know that's right. That is beautiful. That is
Well,
beautiful. So this interview has been absolutely awesome. I thank you for coming on the show on tonight. I appreciate you. Everything that you've shared on tonight has been a whole blessing for me, and I know as well for the listening audience. And so there you all have it, y'all. This woman of God, Dr. Amara Pope, I have enjoyed her. I know that you all have. Thank you all for tuning in. Please don't forget to share this video on tonight. Don't forget to follow this beautiful soul on tonight. Don't forget to follow her. She is everywhere. Going for the Dr. Amara Pope. She's on LinkedIn. She's on Facebook. She's on YouTube. Just about wherever you can think of, she is there. And she's doing some great things, you all. She's doing some wonderful things. And she's accessible just in case you have any questions, you want to connect with her for some more information. Well, thank you, Dr. Amara. You take care of yourself, and we shall continue talking. Until then, peace and blessings.
Bye.
Bye-bye.